name's Peter Yule, running for Park Department. A lot of people know me as Peter Park. Recently retired from the Park Department as superintendent for 40 years. Born and bred here in Rockland, raised my family along with my wife here. Been heavily involved in the youth sports, youth softball, youth baseball, coaching, scouting. I actually started girls softball back in '98 with Joanne and Ken Roberts. I've always worked on trying to keep the communication lines open, whether it was between scouting groups, just taxpayers, and especially with the school and the youth sporting groups. That's where the majority of the technical things get busy, especially in springtime with the softball, the lacrosse, with everything. My goal is to continue that and also protect the green spaces like McCarthy Farm up on Beach Hill, Reed's Pond, along with Hartson Park. Couple things I wanted to continue, the projects we had started with the help of CPA, was I want to see Reed's Pond back the way it was back in, I'm going to say 50s, 60s, way before me, where out front there's a stone wall and a fountain where a wading pool used to be. I want to see that put back the way it was back in the day.
Hi, my name is David Taylor. I reside at 329 Summer Street. I'm running unopposed for highway superintendent. I am currently finishing my third 3-year term for the town. The department is made up of highway, tree, streetlights, stormwater, cemetery, and we assist at the recycling center and also at facilities. I'm a member of the Plymouth County Highway Association, the Mass Highway Association, the American Public Works Association, the North and South River Watershed Association, New England Regional Pretreatment Association, SWANA, and also American Waterworks Association. Some of my professional experience would be developing specifications and bid documents for a variety of public works and utility-related designs, construction, and maintenance projects. I've also implemented and expedited the OSHA standards within our department, thereby averting any potential hazards that could cause significant property damage or injuries to others. I've also implemented the town-wide GIS system, the GPS system, which is implemented by both stormwater and the sewer department. I've also coordinated all road, curb, walkway projects and provided all the in-house engineering required by those projects, as opposed to outsourcing the engineering for those. I've also administered, submitted, and awarded just under $1.5 million in grants for the town in the last 8 years. The goals of our department is to upgrade and make safe all the roads in town and offer pedestrian connectivity throughout town, doing so on a limited budget. Would also like to thank my staff for being the major contributors to all the department's accomplishments. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Matthew Ryan. I live at 936 Union Street here in Rockland, born and raised in this fine town. Currently running for the sewer commissioner for a 3-year term. I've never dreamed of actually running to any kind of public service. I was being on this board, to me, is my way of giving back to the town. My only goals are to ensure that the residents have proper services, and we try to be fiscally responsible for the hard-working taxpayers of Rockland. Thank you very much for your time.
My name is Lori Childs. I live at 234 North Avenue in Rockland, and I'm running for re-election to our select board. On March 28, 2007, our house burnt down. I woke up at 3 a.m. to get ready to waitress at Anita Marie's, and as I walked to the bathroom, I noticed it was incredibly foggy that morning. And smelling a strong waft of burning plastic, I realized the fog was actually black smoke pouring out of our attic. We spent what seemed like an eternity with the Rockland Police Department pulling our 4 children out of a burning house, where later I noticed a main beam had fallen and sliced our 6-year-old's bed in half. The local news stations all arrived and reported on the 5-alarm fire, but the real story happened after the flames were extinguished. The images that stick in my mind all these years later was when our neighbor, Steve McCarskey, went to the wear guard to find my husband a pair of size 16 shoes because he had none in the freezing March air. I remember Celine Furlong starting a meal train for us, baking my husband her famous lemon cake and telling me if the Girl Scout cookie money had burned, we'll work it out. I remember Nicole Barrows busting through the police line to bring our 6-month-old a case of diapers. Jack Ward worked out a bank loan for us in 2008 when the Big Short was happening and the banks were not entertaining loans at all. This is the stuff that matters. This exercise was to tell you all who I am, but I want to tell you who we are and how together we can be the change we want to see in the world. I learn every day why they call Rockland the little town with the big heart. I served through seeing the Girl Scouts from my troop grow into extraordinary and confident young women. On the Finance Committee, I learned and continue to learn about municipal finance and the long road to lower taxes. And on the Select Board, my passion is to finally move the goalposts forward for Rockland. It's been the honor of my life to serve this town. Let's work together toward a brighter future where we all thrive.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Tiso, and I live at 455 Webster Street in Rockland. I'm here tonight because I'm running for a seat on the Select Board, and I wanted to introduce myself to all of you. I've lived in Rockland for pretty much my entire life, minus a few years away where I was living in Alston, Winthrop, and Quincy when I went to graduate school. I have a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in social work. I live here with my teenage daughter and have my mom is living with me as well. So we have a multi-generational household. I've always imagined myself running for select board at some point in time. It's the reason why I chose political science as my undergraduate degree. I believe I joined many others in Rockland who have used a town meeting as a political science research project. The town meeting I attended back in the day ended up with no quorum. So that was a research project all in itself about lack of participation. So I'm hoping to be able to answer some questions tonight and chat with my co-candidates, and I look forward to meeting with you. I'm hoping that you'll consider voting for me on April 12th. Thanks very much.
My name is Mary Parsons. I live at 754 Union Street, and I am running for one of 2 seats on the Select Board of Rockland. Basically, I was a campfire leader, a Cub Scout leader. I've lived in Rockland for 52 years. I belong to the Graphic Arts International Union, and I've been a Select Board member for 2-term Select Board member 20 years ago, and I'm running again because of what I see is kind of lacking in the Select Board, so I would like to try and make it better, improve it. And actually, during the interim, when I was a Select Board member, I wrote a grant for the Rockland Golf Course to preserve it as open space, because the person that had owned it was going to sell it to a developer and develop it with housing, which, if anyone knows, the Rockland Golf Course floods out in major rainstorms. I also was the director of the Advocates for Rockland, Abington, Weymouth, and Hingham, and that was a private group. And that was for getting an independent urban planner to look at our water and sewer needs back then. I also wrote a grant for a $100,000 EPA grant, which we also received for that information on contamination on the former Naval Air Station, which we got that report, and we had aired a lot of studio videotapes on that. 10 seconds. Basically, that's about it. I'm asking for one of you 2 votes for a seat on the Rockland Board of Selectmen. I prefer to answer questions. It's a lot easier if people ask questions than I can answer those, but that's basically, I'm not that good at talking about myself.
Good evening. My name is Steve O'Donnell Jr. I live on Winding Way, and I'm a candidate for Select Board in Rockland. I'd like to thank WRPS for inviting us here today. Rockland is special. I've called it home for 27 of my 41 years. When my family of 3 became a family of 4, my wife Tracy and I began looking for a house for the 4 of us. When I moved from my childhood home at 19 on Concord Street, I had always intended to return to Rockland at some point to give back to the community that raised me. Our housing search in 2016 afforded us the opportunity to make that a reality in December of that year. Over the years, I volunteered my time as a Little League baseball coach, youth football coach, youth soccer coach, Hearts of Disc Golf League and tournament organizer, Rockland Youth Football announcer, and as chair of the Rockland Community Preservation Act Committee. The strong draw for me to contribute to this town has been with me since I was a young man. I've come to realize that not every town has the same community feel that Rockland has. I've talked with other residents who've moved to Rockland from other towns and other states. It always stuck with me how many people remark that Rockland feels special. Rockland feels special because it is special. It's special because of its people. It takes a village to raise a child. As I raise my own children, this proverb becomes more and more true as each year goes by. There is a seemingly endless list of contributors who go above and beyond to raise this town's children. Coaches that thrive on seeing our children grow from the beginning of the season to the end. Teachers who check in when something seems off. Parent advisory council members that make sure kids have fun activities planned throughout the year. Parents of our children's friends have become our friends. My hope is that I can continue to volunteer my time in the most effective and impactful ways to keep Rockland feeling like a community where you want to raise your family. A community where the struggle to provide for and raise a family is made a little bit easier by the people of the village. A community where we continue to provide and grow services for our veterans and elderly population. Together, we can continue to propel Rockland forward. I humbly ask that you vote for Stephen G. O'Donnell on Saturday, April 12th. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming. I'm James Levasseur. I'm going to be hosting tonight's event. I first want to thank Ms. Lisa Breeden, Mr. Seth Rzuski, Mr. Chris Bernica, and Mr. Jonah Piskin, and Ms. Christian Walsh, who cannot make it, for helping me set this whole night up. For without them, this would not be possible. All candidates running for town positions have been invited, but not all could attend. We are grateful for those who are here tonight. So how it's going to work is the questions were created with the input of WRPS staff, town officials, and residents of Rockland. Every candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. There will be time for debates, but only after all candidates have had a chance to answer their question. Some of the topics are general questions, split tax rate, and other questions about attracting/retaining business to town, specific projects, fire station, community center, etc., drinking water, and schools and parks. How you doing, Mr. Taylor?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. I just have one question for you. You got 2 minutes. It should be pretty easy.
Sure.
Alrighty, so can you highlight any specific projects you completed that had a significant impact on road safety or infrastructure in our community?
I think the biggest impact we've had on the town when I came in 2016, 2017 was the first year we started implementing like connectivity. So one of the first things I ran on when I came in out of the election was to provide new sidewalks, new curbings throughout town. Our first area was everything around the schools, which we carried out in 2017 and 2018. That was Taunton Ave, Division Street, Lower Reed Street, and all the connections to that, and also upgraded over by Eston School at the same time to make those crossings safer. After that, we came up with a road management plan on how we were going to provide new curbing and sidewalks through town to make pedestrian connectivity safer. We've done that between grant applications, Chapter 90, and also some town articles. Some of those major streets are, Plain Street, that was a grant along with Chapter 90. We just finished Spring Street, Summer Street intersection, and also Beach Street. We're also working on North Ave right now, which we just received a grant for $500,000. So we'll be starting that project this year. And then also some of the side roads, Reed Street, Belmont, and Upper Reed Street. So I think as far as the accomplishments, besides getting all the road work done and trying to make the roads safer, I think the biggest accomplishment would be the connectivity and pedestrian safety in regards to sidewalks and curbing upgrades, as well as ADA compliant upgrades for the ramps as well. So.
Alrighty, thank you very much. That is all I have. Thank you for coming out.
All right, thank you.
How you doing, Mr. Yule?
Good, how are you, James?
All right, just got a couple questions for you. Simple, easy. What do you think would be a good use for the site of Jefferson School and the Reed Street fields?
Jefferson School, what we were tentatively planning on when I was superintendent and the Board of Commissioners that were over me, is it's probably going to be softball. After the Jefferson School was taken down, we realized the footprint wasn't as big. We were hoping to get maybe a small micro soccer, lacrosse, football field in. We wouldn't be able to get that in along with the parking, but we would be able to fit an additional girls softball field because that's what we're lacking in this town more than anything. And would still have room allotted for the parking lot. And on Reed Street, I'm happy to say, finally, it's been 30 years coming, and I've been involved the whole time. We went to CPA, and through the town and the CPA, we are going to get the paperwork process has already been started, a $3 million bond, of which the Capital Preservation Committee is going to take $700,000 right up front to start the project, and we're hoping to finally put a shovel in the spring of 2026.
Alrighty. And the next question I have for you is, what was your motivation to come back after serving as Park Superintendent to run for Parks Commissioner?
Somebody had said to me at one point, and I was only out of my position for probably 3 weeks, but I had stopped up to see the guys at the park a second time, and somebody said, you need to get a life. And I said to them, this has been my life for 40 years. I've got deep roots in the town. There's a lot of things a lot of people don't know about, like the stadium real quick. The reason why that is there is back in WW2, the town was going to throw a big shindig for the vets coming home, and the veterans said, no, build a new complex. A lot of people don't know these things, and I've just got some deep ties with the town, especially with the Park Commission and the Park Department.
Alrighty, that is all the questions that I have for you, Mr. Yule. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
We have the select board members, which include Mary Parson, Jacqueline Tieso, Lori Childs, and Stephen G. O'Donnell. How you doing, guys?
Great.
Doing great.
Alrighty, so the first question that I have, some towns and cities in Massachusetts have taken an official stance on involvement with ICE investigations and consider themselves sanctuary cities. What is your view on Rockland taking a position on these issues? Mary, I'll start with you.
On sanctuary cities, what is the question again?
Some towns and cities in Massachusetts have taken an official stance on involvement with ICE investigations and consider themselves sanctuary cities. What is your view on Rockland taking a position on these issues?
I'm not sure, that's more on the state level, and I had no say in a sanctuary city, so that's basically, I'm more in tune with what might be in the local level, because the state itself, our governor, our other state officials are the ones that declare what's a sanctuary city. I don't recall Rockland saying they were a sanctuary city.
Alrighty. Stephen, I'll go with you.
Thank you for the question. You know, when I think about issues like this, and when I make decisions, I always like to think globally and act locally. I recently had a conversation on Facebook related to the immigrants, specifically children living at the hotel who are waiting asylum process. And there were arguments from those in the community that thought children who had no choice in the matter should not be in our schools, should not be taking our tax resources. And I take issue with that. Children deserve education. They deserve the right to be educated and have access to the special services that they need in order to succeed in life. And that really bothered me. Now, whether we're a sanctuary city or not, I don't know that I would make a statement whether we should or we shouldn't be. I have no issue with those immigrants in the hotel and other families that need the support that are offered from the state. A lot of people will say they're undocumented or illegal immigrants in that hotel. And there may be a handful, but the large majority of the people there, especially people that are listed in those rooms, are documented. They're going through the asylum process and waiting for their time to state their case. So I'd like to get that information out there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. And Lori?
Yeah, as far as being a sanctuary city, first of all, I don't believe that ICE raids in Rockland will be contained to only criminals. There's a possibility that people like the young woman in Somerville will be taken out of Rockland into some sort of detainment center. I think we ought to have a plan for that. I don't know what that is. Our police department is like a separate entity from the feds that come in to do that. And, you know, I'm kind of pulled about making Rockland a sanctuary city because when it goes out into the news, it could make us a target for more raids. And I certainly wouldn't want that. The immigrants in the hotel, I think the governor has realized that we can't sustain that financially. So April 30th, that program is going to be over. And it's, by the way, the hotels that decide whether they are going to be part of the process to bring the immigrants there. So they're the first step in bringing them. And I don't, you know, mind. I think that they, I believe everybody ought to have abundance and a hand up. And if they are an American and work hard, they too can have the American dream. As far as having a plan, what I advise people to do is if they see an ICE raid that they don't think is kosher, they can always call the Rapid Response and CASA hotlines, which you can find online. And they have lawyers and teams there that will know how to find parents that might have been separated from their children, and they have an absolute legal plan to resolve it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Childs. All righty, Jackie.
Thanks for the question. As a social worker, I actually do work with immigrants on a daily basis. I don't want to get into detail for everybody's safety, but the reality is that these are people. They're humans. They need support. They need assistance, regardless of how they got here, how long they've been here. As far as Rockland being a sanctuary city, I would be concerned about the town's resources in terms of being able to support that type of a declaration. And I think that there are a lot more resources at the state level, and whether or not Rockland would be able to get a hold of any of those types of resources remains to be seen. But I will say that I work with immigrants every day of various documented statuses. They're good people. They struggle just like we do. And I'm just happy to know that my employer has a strong stand on protecting folks. That's it.
All righty,
Thanks.
thank you. All right, so this next question, some of you may have already answered it, but what is Rockland going to do about the undocumented people currently living in the Comfort Inn, and why do our taxes keep going up when the town is supposedly receiving funding to pay for them? Jackie, I'll pick it up with you.
So my understanding is that the program at the hotel, as Lori Childs pointed out, is going to be wrapping up. You know, what the town's plan is at that point, my expectation is there is going to be state assistance with relocating folks if they're unable at this point in time to manage housing on their own. And like I said, as far as resources, I think that Rockland on its own, we're well aware that we have very limited resources, and that's a huge part of what I think a lot of the discussion is tonight with respect to other issues. So Rockland on its own is not going to be able to support however many migrants are up at the Comfort Inn. So I think we need state help. What that plan looks like at this point, I'm not privy to, but I definitely don't think this is something Rockland can take on its own.
All right, thank you. Okay, Lori?
Yeah, so again, the Comfort Inn was the catalyst for being open to receiving the immigrants that stayed in Rockland for, almost a good part of a year. And they did it as a business choice because they would be full every night and have the state pay for it, okay? The governor realized that that was way too much. And I mean, in my personal opinion, I thought that there could be a lot more forethought into that. But yeah, I agree that Rockland, definitely can't with our sewer infrastructure, water infrastructure issues, the base being finally developed. It's a very exciting time for Rockland to grow. And I don't know all of the, all the rules around how these immigrants are going to be placed, whether they're all going to stay in Rockland or they're going to go to other cities and towns. So I think I'd have to learn a lot more about what the protocol is before I can answer specifically on that.
Alrighty, thank you. Okay, Stephen?
Sure. Thanks for the question. So the program is run by the state. The town, outside of police, EMS, fire, and schools, is not likely a large drain on our resources. That said, if the town were to be expected to step in, we don't have the resources to cover what the state is paying. Our role is to be good stewards of our resources and our tax revenue. And so I don't think we can pick that up. If they're to find subsidized housing within the town, then it would be no different than any other family moving into subsidized housing within our town. There would be no additional drain on resources. It would likely incur an increase of tax revenue for the town by having that family in the town, likely working in the town or in a community nearby, but spending their money in our town. Thank you.
Okay, Mary?
Are you asking me about the immigrants that already live in our town and that are here legally? Because I'm concerned about them being rounded up in an ICE raid. Because that's been happening in places. They don't discern who is who. They just pick up everybody, and there's collateral damage there. Yes, I know the legal immigrants that are in this town. They live in my neighborhood. And that's basically all I've got to say about that in terms of that. That's a concerning issue.
All right, guys, the next question is, what are your priorities for the town budget, and how do you plan to balance the need for services with keeping taxes manageable? And how do you plan to support small businesses and attract new economic opportunities for our town? Mary, I'll pick it up with you.
Basically, right now, in terms of the budget, we can't afford anything more. We have a fire station that we desperately need, but people, when voting, they're going to have to decide if they can afford it. It's up to them. It's not up to me to tell anyone how to vote on that. In terms of the budget, I know a lot of departments are just as lean as can be. But we may have to make cutbacks because the feds are not funding, will not be funding us in the future. You have to be prepared for that to happen. It's already happening to our universities here. They're losing money. They're losing money for scientific research. Hospitals are losing money. They're cutting them off. You have to be prepared in terms of what you may have to cut and hanging on to our services. It's a lean budget, believe me. But I will say one more thing on the immigration. I know that my neighbors are going to be watching this, especially the ones that are immigrants.
Alrighty, Stephen?
Sure. I recently posted a longer write-up regarding municipal taxes on my Committee to Elect Facebook page. I encourage folks to go there, take the time to read it, and message me with any questions. The short version's this. The only way to lower taxes in a meaningful way without cutting services and stopping progress is remediating infrastructure. The more development, more buildings means a larger tax base. More people means more economic activity and more businesses. More people paying taxes will spread the tax burden across a larger group, effectively lowering the property tax rate for everyone in town. This can only occur if we expand our sewer capacity. I'm not proposing willy-nilly development. I'm proposing thoughtful development. We should make use of our newly designated MUD-zoned land and work with the Southfield Redevelopment Authority to develop within the already zoned land. To do this, we need to continue to invest in Rockland. Much like a 401k retirement plan, you need to contribute regularly to see meaningful growth. If you contribute for a period of time and stop, you'll see some growth, but at a much slower rate. Ultimately, you will not have the funds to live the life you want to live in retirement. The same is true for the future of Rockland. If we want to realize the growth potential and ultimately lower our tax burden, we need to continue to invest in our infrastructure. This includes sewer and water. On attracting business, it's my understanding that our town planners had discussions with prospective businesses about coming to Rockland. Our limitations with sewer capacity and water availability have been the barrier to entry. Unless they fit into the mold of the previous business that occupied the existing space, They are hamstrung on what they can do in any prospective space. We need to focus on improving our infrastructure to allow for new development for both business and residential. Thank you.
Alrighty. Lori?
Yeah, I agree with everything Steve said. But what does development look like? I mean, I hear all the time, we don't want Rockland to look like Route 18 in Weymouth. We don't want urban sprawl. It doesn't have to be. We can have rules and bylaws to stay within parameters of design. Some do it well, others do not. When I visited Burlington, Vermont last summer, the new growth melded into the existing architecture so well that I had to look really hard to tell what was the new growth. On the other hand, I don't think, like I said, anyone wants the urban sprawl like on Route 18 in Weymouth. I made a Venn diagram with the help of our town planner. This is kind of, I don't know if you can zoom in on this, but it's Municipal Finance 101. To have stable services like police, fire, libraries, and schools, and low taxes, you must have more density. To have low density and stable services, you have to raise taxes. To have low taxes and low density, you must cut services. I don't think it's fair to anybody to cut services in Rockland because they're fabulous. So to have all three, low density, low taxes, and stable services just doesn't exist. The corporate to residential ratio in Rockland is way out of whack in my view. It's 19% commercial to 81% residential. This must change for taxes to even out. With projects like Shingle Mill and the PMOD district that was voted down a few years ago, the DEP and MEPA are the ones who give the last word on whether either will affect our water reservoir, and of course, we wouldn't want a project that would do that. I believe in very managed, smart new growth, and at the same time, correcting our infrastructure issues. Thank you.
Alrighty. Jackie?
So I'm the fourth person in on a very loaded question with multiple layers, so I may have forgotten part of what this is that I'm speaking to.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
That would be fabulous.
All right, no problem. What are your priorities for the town budget, and how do you plan to balance the need for services with keeping taxes manageable? How do you plan to support small businesses and attract new economic opportunities to our town?
Thank you for the repetition.
No problem.
So as far as what the most important thing with the budget, obviously nobody wants to lose services, but we are really hamstrung by our infrastructure. I think everyone's made that clear. The biggest problem, I think, in terms of a barrier to development is the sewer plant. So I know that they have been trying in numerous years, in the last few years, to catch up with respect to repairs to the sewer plant, but we're still a long way off. I'm concerned about being able to do all of it at once, as critical as that is for being able to pull in more businesses and support them. So I think the most important budget items at this point are infrastructure. I know there's a lot of discussion around school department budget and things of that nature. You know, my daughter went to Rockland Public Schools. She went to Ease. She did the Rockland daycare. They're really great services, and no one wants to see those cut. At the same time, I also recognize that, you know, we live in a town where there are a lot of people with a lot of budgetary challenges. We're a community. We can't just leave them behind because we're trying to push Rockland forward as a whole. So I appreciate our challenges, and I certainly don't come in with any preconceived notions of what needs to be done. Thank you.
All right, guys, so the next question is, what is your opinion of allowing the public to speak at select board meetings, and do you think there should be limits or more control over this system? Jackie, I'll pick it up with you.
Sure thing. That's one of my favorite topics. So I staunchly support public comment at select board meetings. I think that in a lot of ways, Rockland has a problem with communication and trust. I think that if people felt like they could go to their select board without a whole lot of barriers and to be able to speak respectfully and on topic to what's on the agenda, they should be able to do that. And I think that it would go a long way towards kind of opening up conversation and having people feel more welcomed to be able to participate and really speak to the particular agenda items of that evening. I don't think that people should be able to go up and just willy-nilly, to quote you, Steve, say whatever they want to, especially if it's not on topic. I'm aware of the open meeting law and how very easily that can be violated if people are able to just go up and talk about whatever they want. But I think it's important to reintroduce that and bring it back, because I think it would go a long way towards fostering more trust between the community and the select board.
All right, thank you. All right, Lori?
Yeah, my cell number is 781-363-3209. I find it more affable, where you develop a trusting relationship with residents if you sit down with them one-on-one or in a small group. The open meeting law is something heavy. We really can't respond the way that we would like to certain questions. And I believe that there's certain groups in town that might have an agenda to come to a select board meeting and, just, kind of throw up all over us. So, which I don't mind. I mean, I get yelled at every day, and I believe if I don't get yelled at by a resident, that I'm not doing my job well. So, but I am willing to speak with anybody, anytime, about any topic, and one-on-one, and I'm out and about in the community all the time, talking to people, and more importantly, listening. So, there's many people in town that know that, and I have a very trusting relationship, and as do other people on our board. So that's how I feel. Oh, and Tiffany has really long select board meetings, which is okay. I mean, we have a lot of stuff going on, but we volunteer in this position. We're not paid, and to have it go on for much longer than necessary, I think that's I think that's something to lean into a little as well.
All right, thank you. All right, Stephen?
Thanks for the question. As the other candidates mentioned, allowing open comment has the propensity to goad the elected officials into violating open meeting law. While you could have open comment and allow citizens to speak, that wouldn't violate open meeting law. But if a board member were to respond and it wasn't on the agenda, that would be a violation, and that can become problematic. I think we do need to allow for greater access to our elected and appointed officials. As Laurie mentioned, gave her cell phone out on the air, and it's very brave of her. There are other ways. You can always email any of our town employees. They can direct you on how to get in touch with your elected officials or appointed officials. I had folks reach out to me as chair of the Community Preservation Act Committee to talk about the park that's being installed on the center of Union Street. I added it to my agenda. No one came to speak to it. I attended a select board meeting 2 weeks ago, and this kind of goes to Lori's comment. And sometimes that agenda's packed. It started at 7 promptly. I left at 10:30. They then went into executive session for I don't know how long. And at times that's okay, but if it's repeated, it can really be a strain on families for those that are volunteering their time. While there may be opportunities for public comment, maybe on shorter agendas, I think there are other opportunities to be in touch with your elected officials to get what you want to talk about added to the agenda so that it can be discussed properly between the interested parties. I think the better way that you can make your voice heard is by volunteering. Find something that you love, volunteer your time. Just by attending something as simple as an event at our library, one of their programs, is a way to give back to the community.
All right, thank you. And Mary?
I'm a firm believer in everyone should be able to speak, and since I was a select person, we had open forum. and you could speak, you could ask any question, you could state whatever you wanted to do. And yes, we've had many meetings that went to 10 o'clock and 10:30 at night. And the select board is the only board that really doesn't let anyone speak. I go to ZBA meetings, I go to water commission meetings, sewer meetings. Well, sewer meetings used to let you speak. And conservation commission meetings, and they have no problem with the public speaking. They have no problem with the public asking a question. Only the select board. And the select board meeting that I went to in August, my name was mentioned by Laurie Childs and Michael Laughlin. I raised my hand, and Tiffany said she was not entertaining me speaking on a subject that I am an expert on, which is the South Weymouth Naval Air Station and its planning and its contamination, and I've been involved with it for 29 years. And I also get to speak with DEP and EPA and the Navy. And yes, I believe everyone should be able to speak, and everyone else should hear the questions that these people have.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next question is, what is your opinion in regards to the prospect of a split tax rate, which seems to continuously come up in discussions? Mary, I'll start with you.
I firmly believe that at some point we need to have a split tax rate, because you can't keep asking people to pass debt exclusions. You just can't do it. We have, let's see, the roads debt exclusion, the senior center debt exclusion, 4 schools debt exclusion, and we have 2 more coming up on this ballot. You can't keep doing that. And yes, I think it was in 2009 or 10 that we actually had a services override. At some point, you're going to have to do it. And plus, when you say that you want to add more development people and so on and so forth, that'll lower the tax rate. I've been here long enough to know that when they said Hingham Street was going to be our salvation and all the business on it was going to lower our tax rate, it has never happened. I have never seen the tax rate. In terms of the rate itself, if the rate goes down, the evaluation of your home goes up and vice versa.
All right, thank you. And I'll move on to Stephen.
Sure. Great question. Right now, business, industrial, and residential properties all pay the same tax rate. In 2024, the tax rate was $14.06 per $1,000 valuation. Residential property accounted for 80% of tax levies in this town. Until we can encourage more business and industry to come to this town, it doesn't make sense for a split tax rate. If we were to raise tax rate on business or industrial properties, it would drive away our current businesses. If we were to lower the tax rate on business or industrial properties to try to attract them, it would increase the tax burden on our homeowners. Our residents have been loud and clear. They want a plan to lower taxes. The only way to achieve this without draconian service cuts is thoughtful development. More developed properties means more value to tax against. This would spread out the tax burden and effectively lower taxes for everyone. We can't do this until we address sewer and capacity issues. I have faith that our new sewer commissioners are up to the task. Now, I've been met with comments like Mary made about taxes never going down. And I understand that. There are methodologies to do that. You can allow for our levy limit to remain the same, but not tax up to that levy. In 2024, we had $60,000 in excess levy capacity, meaning that the town could have collected an additional $60,000 from the residents, but they chose not to. They didn't need to. So it was effectively lower taxes. There are also, you can do what's called an underride. It's very rarely done, but I think if development grows the tax base and services remain the same, and we're looking at prices, there may be opportunities to pass an underride if we're consistently seeing excess levy left on the table.
Alrighty, thank you. And Lori?
Yeah, Union Point is exciting. It's an exciting project. I believe these developers have done their due diligence with getting all of their MEPA and DEP and everything passed and accepted. They bought up most of Union Point. The Navy has remediated most of the PFAS and other chemicals, and we're just about ready to go. In fact, we're working right now with the Union Point developers and finding them a temporary water source, and the water department is really collaborating with them well on that in finding it. So maybe by the fall, we will have shovels in the ground at Union Point. And it's very exciting because, and I think that voters at town meeting were apparently excited too, because it was approved 241 to 38 to develop at Union Point. So they said that Rockland would receive a $4 to $6 million boost in tax revenue. I think, honestly, that's lowballing it. One of the biggest and largest cost centers in our budget is the Plymouth County Retirement Assessment. It being fully funded means that it pays for itself, and we will have a significant financial relief in fiscal year 31 and 32. The guesstimates at this point are about $9 million more in our budget to subsidize projects like sewer improvement, relieving the debt from projects like the elementary school, the VOTEC, or possibly a new firehouse. Combined with the $4 to $6 million or more from Union Point, it's even possible to provide residential tax relief. None of these decisions can be made today, but we're getting closer to the finish line.
All right, thank you. And Jackie?
Thanks. I do think at some point Rockland would need to adopt a split tax rate. I don't think we're there right now. I believe that the state's recommendation is somewhere around 80-20 split, maybe a little bit better than that. I do know that people worry that this is going to drive business out of town. I just recently saw an article from last year where Hanover discussed and adopted a split tax rate. And one of the quotes was the developer, the owner of Merchants Row or Merchants Commons, and he was like, well, you're just going to drive business out of Hanover. I don't think that's happening because of a split tax rate, and they continue to develop. I think that continued reliance on the residents shouldering a lot of this is really unrealistic, and it causes people to not really want to support projects because they look at their own bottom line. And I think that when we're talking about development that has not yet occurred, I worry about planning for things that we don't have yet. Yep, it all looks really exciting and it's hopeful, but the sewer infrastructure, the water infrastructure are big hurdles to overcome. I'm not saying that we're not going to overcome them eventually, but when you're talking about 2031 or 2032, I'm not even sure I'll be here at that point. Not Rockland, but just on the planet. So those are my thoughts about a split tax rate. We'll see what happens.
All right, thank you. And this next question, if the firehouse vote doesn't pass, what is the backup plan for updating the existing building or building a new firehouse? Jackie, I'll start with you.
I'm really hopeful that it will pass. I appreciate, first of all, let me say I appreciate our first responders, our firefighters, our police. They deserve our investment and our support. I also appreciate the work of the Fire Station Building Committee in going back to the table and coming up with a new plan. It's certainly at a lower price point. Personally, for me, it's still worrisome for me in terms of the property tax hit. I'm a single parent, which means I'm a single income, and I always have to really take these things into serious consideration. I'm frustrated by the fact that I can't just enthusiastically go into the polling booth on election day and know that I can support that 100% without thinking. I really don't know what I'm going to do until I get in there. But I think the people of Rockland are incredibly generous. They often give of what they don't have. So I'm very optimistic that the fire station ballot question will pass. Thanks.
Alrighty, and now Lori.
Personally, I support the firehouse for myself. No pun intended, but it's been on the back burner for 24 years. I wish there was enough foresight in 1999, or would have been, to build a combined fire and police facility. So both of them, we'd have both in one. It's a national epidemic and proven in several studies that cancer in firefighters is exponentially higher. There's a higher risk to our firefighters for cancer. The current station just doesn't work for us anymore. It's too small. To add on to it, we would have to take 2 residences at least by eminent domain. And building it still wouldn't meet the needs that the fire department has. We can choose again to kick a can down the road or not. And you know, and I do appreciate the tax hits on many residents with limited incomes. I mean, my husband's retired, I get it. And, yeah. So, I think also that we can look for a pipeline of federal money somehow, or state aid for Firehouse reconstruction. There's been I think 11 now iterations of Congress that could have entertained a bill that had been written by many different Congress people, and they just haven't. They haven't brought it to the floor. And it's for reconstructing the ailing firehouses around the country. So I continue to have hope that there will be grants available that would provide residents relief. We got a new firehouse.
All right, thank you. And Stephen?
Thank you. So I voted against the initial fire department proposal. Like many voters at the 2023 town meeting, I felt the cost was too much to bear. While I know I'll receive some pushback on my position regarding this year's fire station proposal, I want to remind voters of our town meeting in May of 2023. The voters were loud and clear. Come back with a more conservative building and price tag. It appears the project committee did just that, with a 21% price reduction over the initial ask. By moving forward with the project, it gives our firefighters who put their lives at risk every time they respond to a fire a clean and professional workplace. It helps protect them from cancer-causing substances, like Laurie mentioned, necessary to protect them while fighting fires. However, the substances are not necessary while they're living within the building. A new building will improve morale, allow for new fire trucks to be purchased without requiring expensive upgrades for it to fit in our current fire station, and open up the existing property for future development. I'll be voting in favor of the 2025 new fire station project on April 12th and at our annual town meeting in May. If it doesn't pass, I'd have to rely on the fire department, Chief Duffy, and the planning committee. I don't think it makes sense to retrofit. We'd have to take property behind it by eminent domain with the library next to it, and I never want to see that building move. So I think really the answer there is if it doesn't pass, we'd have to look at revisiting the topic down the road.
Okay. And Mary?
On the fire station?
Yes.
Okay, I'm one of the ones that was begging Scott Duffy at a meeting, can you please scale it down? And he did. It's going to be up to the people what they want. It doesn't kick in right away. Yeah, they've needed a new fire station before we ever needed a new elementary school. So yeah, and I'm going to say that there's some issues that have been said in terms of we're not volunteers here, folks. There are 4 people vying for 2 seats on the board, select board. We're not volunteers. We're running for an election. And then a couple of other issues in terms of the base. They are not remediating the PFAS right now. They have not built the facility to do that. And what's up in the air is the federal, this administration has done away with any kind of lowering of PFAS numbers. So basically, we're going on the state number of 4. I was out with the Navy a week ago checking out a Circus site, which is a Superfund site, and I asked him that question. They're still in the design phase, and they're still wondering, are they going to remediate PFAS in the water? But it's not the only contamination out there. Plus, the fact that we have been voting on reuse plans since 1998. This is the 5th reuse plan. The shovel's not going in the fall. Water is an issue. Weymouth has water issues, but Weymouth is on MWRA sewer. Weymouth may have a little bit of water to have building take place on the Weymouth side. The SRA developer, New England Development, has said that there is a commercial interest in developing on the East Mat in Weymouth, and the traffic will go out 228. Know that the development in Weymouth, we are not getting the revenue from that, and it's going to be years before the MWRA water is here, and we have to solve the sewer issue. And then there's all the issues that DEP and EPA want done with that base. Housing's not going up right away, and housing definitely is not going up right away in the Rockland section of that base. And I have the documents that say so.
Okay, at this point, we are going to open it up for a debate. Every candidate will still have 2 minutes. Unfortunately, Jackie Tieso had to step out due to a personal matter, so we'll pick it up with you, Lori.
Yeah, I wanted to push back a little at what Mary was saying. I happen to know for a fact that New England Development has commercial interest in Rockland. And the reason that there's commercial interest in Rockland is because we're right off of the highway. And that's very attractive to commercial businesses. And they are working with the water department. And the state has is giving up to $35 million to bring MWRA to the base. The governor has dedicated that. And so they need a temporary source in the meantime. So the water department is actively working with New England Development to find a temporary water source. And yes, these commercial developments want to put shovels in the ground. They wanted to this summer, but they're doing some feasibility studies first, so likely the fall. So.
Okay, we'll move on to Stephen.
Thank you. First thing I want to push back on is Mary mentioned that we're not volunteers. To me, I define a volunteer as someone who's giving their time without getting paid. And the select board is not paid. They used to be. There used to be, I think, a $500 stipend years and years ago, but that was done away with. Most of our elected and appointed officials are not paid. And in my mind, that makes them volunteers. I'm not sure how we got on the topic of Southfield Union Point, talking about the fire station, but I'll say this. I had a great conversation recently with the chairman of Southfield Redevelopment Authority, Tom Henderson. Our conversation centered around preserving open space and thoughtful development. We discussed the challenges with water and sewer. We agree that infrastructure investment is key to unlocking the potential of the Rockland portion of the old airbase. In order to be successful, we need collaboration between a number of boards and committees. I believe I can help facilitate conversations due to the relationships I've built over the years. The Select Board does not exert direct influence over any other boards outside of appointing members. However, I believe that anyone can help steer conversation and discover new ideas by listening intently and engaging in respectful conversation. Success is inevitable when all parties come together and travel a shared path with a common goal of moving Rockland forward.
I was on the Citizen Advisory Committee for the redevelopment of the South Weymouth Naval Air Station. I was appointed by the Secretary of Environmental Affairs, and no, you could not apply to it. You had to be nominated by someone else to that committee, and you had to have certain expertise. With that being said, I am in touch with the legislature. The legislature is not and has not approved anything to supply money for the MWRA to come to Weymouth. That is as recent as 6 weeks ago. I was at the meeting where John Toig of New England Development said that the commercial that is interested in coming to the base is coming to the Weymouth section. The East Mat is in Weymouth, and that's where it's coming, because it can't come to Rockland just yet because the water isn't there and the sewer isn't there.
They're not
And
doing
that
the
is
sewer.
at the meeting, Laurie. I was at the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, John Toig, he'll tell you that. I'm having a meeting with him next week at some point. That's already being scheduled now. When I was on that Citizen Advisory Committee, we did everything: water, sewer, wetlands, Zone A, stormwater, open space, development. I know exactly where building can go on the Rockland section. It won't bother anybody. It will be great to have it. It gets frustrating that it hasn't happened at all this time. Believe me, because I want to see it, because I know exactly where it can go, and it won't bother any neighbors. We still have open space. The Park Service, if you've gone down Spruce Street and seen the parking lot, that open space is by the National Park Service. We got that. Two of us asked for that to happen before we voted in 1998, and that's when the voting on this space started. Believe me, I know every inch of that base.
Okay, so that will end the debate session. So my next question for you guys is, with the Recreation Department and daycare planning a move to Eston School, what are your ideas for uses for the community center and building? Lori, I'll pick it up with you.
The community center building, I've given it a lot of thought. I think it's very exciting that it's going back on the tax rolls, and it's very exciting that potentially the Firehouse could go back on the tax rolls. So I'll answer my ideas for both of those buildings. The Firehouse would make a great restaurant. I would love to see waitresses coming down on a fire pole to serve. I think that would be kind of cool, or waiters. You know, the McKinley building, I believe the facade ought to be kept the way it is, just for historic preservation. It's a 50,001 square foot building. It's huge. I believe the gym in the back can be knocked down, and it can be zoned and made into a parking garage to accommodate uptown. A lot of, you know, people are saying that they ought to make it into housing with the stores on the bottom, maybe 3 floors of condos with stores on the bottom. I don't know. I would love to see a movie theater, performing arts center, a rock and roll club. Well, there's a lot of houses around there. Maybe it's not the best place for that, but it's very exciting. I would have to chat with the town planner to see if what interest there is in it, and I'm sure there will be. A skating rink, maybe a combination of all that. But it's very exciting to get that building back on the tax rolls.
Alrighty, and we'll move on to Stephen.
It's a great question. Yeah, conflicting thoughts about rec center moving out of McKinley. It's such a showpiece for the town, especially if we could pretty it up. The facade of the building is on the historical register. It's eligible for Community Preservation Act funds to help maintain it. I think the best use of that building when they move out will be for affordable housing. One of the economic headwinds that we face is the lack of affordable housing. In affordable housing and 40B projects, they're often treated like the boogeyman. I think it's due to misconceptions related to the topic. Education on this topic is important because to understand the law's purpose and what it really does. The goal of these developments is to get the town above the state mandated threshold of 10% affordable housing stock. Once the town passes that threshold, developers can't bypass our local zoning bylaws. The town is at a 6.26% affordable housing units based on a report from June 2023. There's a lot of talk about the shingle mill that's being installed behind Home Depot. We would have a lot more say in that project if we were over our 10% affordable capacity. I'll say this, I think a big reason why the misconception about affordable housing is that folks think that it brings in, I don't know a good way to say it, but people that don't have the means. But I looked through the math, and to qualify for affordable housing, it's really 80% of the area median income. And for a family of 4 to qualify for one of those residences, they need to make $132,300. $132,300. When you think of affordable housing, that's probably not the number that you think of. The median area income for Rockland is just above $100,000. That means the majority of residences would qualify for affordable housing in Rockland. Thank you.
And Mary?
In terms of affordable housing and the 10%, what was your question?
So with Recreation Department and daycare planning a move to Eston School.
Yeah, in terms, the Recreation Department does a great job. My youngest son worked for the Recreation Department in the summer just before he went off to college. The thing about the McKinley building, there's still town committees that meet there. I think the Veterans Affairs agent is in the McKinley building. I know the Historical Commission is in the McKinley building. And yeah, the McKinley building could have a better use in terms of affordable housing. In Shingle Mill, it's not about affordable housing. It's about the fact that they are trying to locate on the recharge area of our municipal drinking water supply. And the issue is the fact of stormwater being discharged and sewerage being brought in, and that is too close to our municipal drinking water supply. And that is the issue with that, and it's an issue with DEP and EPA. So that it has nothing, it's not the affordable housing part of it at all. It's the fact that they're trying to locate too close to the municipal drinking water supply, and that is still going on.
Okay. And our next question is, would you consider allowing smaller families an option for fewer trash/recycling pickups in order to save on the trash bill? For instance, opting into a trash and recycling pickup every other week versus every week. Mary, I'll pick up with you.
You want people to make, well, actually, there are people that do that, smaller. I know apartment buildings that have their own trash supply, and they live near me, so that can already happen. I kind of wish the Board of Health would go back to having the water, sewer, trash all in one place, and we pay that bill quarterly instead of trying to remember, did we pay it every 6 months, and then the other one's quarterly. Yeah, they already can do that, a small group of homeowners, and I know people that have looked into doing that, and it became, price prohibited for them, but some apartment buildings, they do it. They're across the street from me. They have their own trash pickup.
Alrighty. And Stephen?
Sure. A better question for the Board of Health. Select Board doesn't really get involved with those decisions. It's an opt-out program, our trash program. I think you're automatically enrolled, and you can, as Mary said, you can opt out and get private trash service if that's what you want to do. I would like to see better bill pay options for those on the town website. It's difficult at times. You misplace the bill, like, I got to pay my water bill, and you go on, it's like, well, I need all these specific information in order to pay that. The trash portion doesn't work that way for some reason. I'd like to understand why that is, but I think an easier way to pay the bill would make it easier. And folks always have the option on if they want to use our services or a private service.
All right, thank you. And Lori?
Yeah, to lower your trash bill, I believe that you can look into a private service to see if that's more affordable. And, when we were picking up every 2 weeks, my bill was like $98 a quarter for trash. And then now that we're, picking up every week, it's still $98 a quarter. I just paid it yesterday. So, and I have to write it down on the calendar when to pay the trash bill because it does get wicked confusing. So, I agree. I wish that would change. So, yeah, I believe that opting out and looking into other options is, according to what your budget is a good option.
All right, and so my final question tonight is what can be done so that the town can meet its 10% affordable housing number? Lori, I'll pick it up with you.
Well, Shingle Mill is, at this point, going to be 199 units, which will, along with our other inventory, it push us to the 10% limit. And I spoke with Bob Galvin, who is our land use attorney, just the other day, and he sent this. After mediation, the applicant and board agreed to a modified decision granting approval to the project with conditions. This is a ZBA board. A modified comprehensive permit allows for 199 units and 2 garden-style apartment buildings with 345 parking spaces as shown on an expanded parking plan. 25% of the units are affordable. There's no water for domestic water supply, and the Abington-Rockland Joint Waterworks has agreed to fire protection service only. The applicant is in the process of trying to permit a private water supply that is done through DEP for domestic water supply, and to get that approval, they need to prove no impact on the water reservoirs owned by Abington-Rockland Joint Waterworks. They cannot dispose of septic wastewater there, so they're in a queue with Rockland Sewer based on the date of the modified decision. They are going to pay an 11-to-1 eye-to-eye reduction rate to make capacity for their project. I cannot say when this will be done. There are numerous other state and other permit approvals required, most notably a MEPA approval due to the size and parking requirement. They were just in front of the ZBA to modify the decision to address a waiver issue and found it was a substantial change, which Bob Galvin did not think it was right. There will probably be a further appeal that we will lose, is what he says. They need okay. So bottom line is this. We don't want to get sued by the state or by the developer for this project, or we will, okay, yeah, I'll wrap it up. But we will fall way into disorder with our budget if that happens.
All right, thank you. And Stephen?
Sure. So I spoke a bit about this earlier, but we need to get to that 10% threshold. My time on the Community Preservation Act, we did some work toward that goal. One was working with the NeighborWorks, who manages Copley Gardens. They retrofitted some units to be ADA compatible and added a number of affordable housing units to their stock. We just approved funding for the schoolhouse apartment building. That's the old Holy Family School that's being converted into 27 affordable units reserved for senior citizens. That's 100% affordable housing just in that building alone. The way it works is when a 40B project comes in, and you can do homeownership development or rentals. For homeownership development, at least 25% of the proposed units need to be sold as affordable. With rental developments, 20% of the units need to be restricted to low-income households. Again, that's 80% of AMI, and I mentioned it earlier. 80% for our area is $132,300 for a family of four. For low-income households, that's 50% AMI. For a family of four, that's $82,700. And then for moderate income, so still affordable, 80% for a single person, because they have charts on the HUD website, is $92,650. So if you earn less as a single person than $92,650, you would qualify for affordable housing. Thank you.
Okay. And Mary?
In terms of affordable housing, back in 2014, we found out that the state doesn't even keep records of what they have for affordable housing or meeting their 10%. There's also a way of doing affordable housing by land mass, and you take out your water, your wetlands, your rivers, your commercial business, so on and so forth, and then you see what you have left in that core that has all of the things, open space, parks, and all of that taken out, and see what you have left, and does that have affordable housing in it, or is there space to put affordable housing in it? And that's how Weymouth got their 10%, and that lasted for about 20 years. And there's a formula for that.
That is it. That is all my questions I have for you guys. So we're going to move on to closing statements. Mary, I'll start with you.
Good, because my beginning statement was terrible. I was a nervous wreck, and when they asked me if I wanted to do over, I said, no, I'm out of here. But no, I finally got to where I relaxed, and what I would like to say, and I may have to read some of it, is my experience is I was a two-term member of the Rockland Board of Selectmen for 6 years. When I was a selectman, I wrote a Department of Conservation and Recreation grant to pay the legal fees to place a conservation restriction on the Rockland Golf Course. This was accomplished with the help from all Rockland departments and the Rockland Open Space Committee, who brought us Trust for Public Land. And at the time, our Finance Committee kept a tight leash on the legal budget, and it was $50,000. You just couldn't go over it, and we always were looking for someone to pay the legal fees. Trust for Public Land stepped up and took on the legal fees because we had a very nasty developer that wanted to develop the Rockland Golf Course, and he sued the planning board members individually, which froze their bank accounts, and then he sued them as a town board. And this went on for several years, and I, at that time, was actually filming planning board meetings with my camera. And I happened to stumble on the planning board meeting, and we went till 11:30 at night. And I ended up having to do it every single meeting because that developer was suing them, and the video of the meeting showed that what he was suing them and what was in his lawsuit was just willy-nilly. Anyway, after that, I was appointed by the Secretary of Environmental Affairs to the Citizen Advisory Committee for the Naval Air Station South Weymouth redevelopment, and that was back in 2001. This went to a final certificate in 2007. Since then, we've had a couple of other certificates. That was an enlightening experience. The documents are over there. It was intense. Water,
Unfortunately,
sewer,
Mary, that is
wetlands,
time, so I'm
on
gonna
and
have to
so
move
forth.
on to
And then
Stephen's opening statement.
I belong to the Graphic Arts International Union, Rockland Youth Soccer, and you can have the rest in the beginning.
Okay, Stephen, we'll get your closing statement.
Thank you very much for having us here tonight. First, I'd like to thank WRPS and the student body for putting together tonight's event. WRPS continues to prove they are an asset to this town by running a local radio station, providing regular content and coverage for our local politics and high school sporting events. They deserve a special thanks for jumping into action during the years immediately following the COVID pandemic. WRPS facilitated many, if not all, open meetings for every town board, commission, and committee. They were the reason town business kept moving forward. I believe I'm the best candidate for the open select board seat due to my demonstrated commitment to the town. I strive to embody the qualities of integrity, compassion, and loyalty. As Donna Shortall steps down from her seat on the select board, I want to thank her for her many years of service to the town. I've worked in the field of information technology for the last 17 years of my career. I've been in digital management role for the last 10. This is a field that isn't represented on the select board. As we move further into the digital age, my knowledge will be an asset for the town. I mentioned my various volunteer roles for the town during my introduction. I'd like to focus a bit on my time with the Community Preservation Act Committee. As chair of the Rockland Community Preservation Act Committee, I have overseen the approval of many projects. These projects preserve, create, or restore open space, housing, and our town's history. All community preservation projects are completed without any additional tax increases and help preserve our town's history and culture. These projects allowed me to collaborate with many different boards and committees. Over the years, I've built up strong working relationships with our town administrator and members of the Select Board, Community Preservation Act, Open Space, Historical, Parks, Planning, Housing, Recreation, Capital Planning, Finance Commissions, and Committees. These relationships will allow for my continued support for their respective missions. As your Select Board representative, I look forward to working collaboratively with the new sewer commissioners to help find solutions to our sewer capacity and infiltration issues. I also look forward to working with our waterworks to ensure our water is clean and safe. Most of all, as your Select Board member, I look forward from hearing you, the people.
Thank you very much, Stevens. And Ms. Childs?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for doing this. This is the first student-run candidates night, and you all did a fabulous job. I tip of my hat.
Thank you.
For the past 40 years, we've kicked cans down the road. We can't afford to do that any longer. We can't have our town crumble around us. And there's a lot of potential to make Rockland into an even better place than it is now. Being on the select board, I, along with my cohorts, have dedicated millions in federal ARPA funds to sewer and water infrastructure improvements and downtown side and facade grant programs to prepare for future economic development. We balance the town's budget without the need for operational overrides. We work diligently to help preserve the recreation department and school daycare programs by exploring options for the new rec center at Hartsuff Park, issuing an RFP to lease private space, and ultimately approving the new solution for saving our rec department of the school daycare program relocating to the Eston School. We maximize the use of marijuana host community agreement funds for capital expenses to defray costs to Rockland residents, and fought the state's new law and Cannabis Control Commission regulations that took this funding stream away from cities and towns going forward. We supported the town's first billboard on Route 3 by opting for an area that won't negatively affect residents and provides $60,000 a year recurring revenue to the town. We hired the first permanent town planner who brings in well beyond her salary and grant money for Rockland. I can go on and on and on, but I see a very bright future ahead. I see Rockland ultimately being the town ultimately being able to level out the taxes that we're paying so they won't increase as much as they have been. And I ask you to go on the ride with me.
All right, thank you. And thank you to everyone watching. Good luck to all the candidates running in the upcoming election. And make sure to follow or subscribe to WRPS and my show, Bulldog Breakdown. And yeah, so that's it. Thanks for watching.